I thought I'd come on and talk a little bit about mind trash and mind trashing people, which is the projection of toxic thinking onto another person or another thing. It doesn't even have to be a person. So the reason this came about is because maybe over the last 5 days I've received about 10 comments to my face, on my body, or about me. And these have come from friends and colleagues. And I think when they were doing it, they didn't feel like there was anything wrong with it. And at the time it happened, I sort of brushed it off and didn't really, think about it. Just let it be absorbed into my own goodwill about that person and my own loving nature. I like to think the best of people, so I just sort of brushed it off. But after so many comments were happening in quite a short space of time, I just began to feel that there was something completely wrong in this, which there is, and I began to feel under attack. And I noticed that because I began to feel sort of more closed off than I usually do. So, what I was realising was that, and my inner child was telling me, was that I was actually under fire, like under attack from other people's projections, other people's thought forms that they were projecting on me. And this essentially is other people's thoughts in their own heads, and they are projecting it onto me. And this is really their own mind trash, and what they're doing is they're getting their toxic thinking and they are emptying it all over my head and my body. They're just emptying it over my energy system, really. And what I'm realising is that people come along and dump it all over me, and then they walk off and they think that's okay. And it's an even stranger experience when it's friends, because when it happens with friends and there's trust involved, you begin to think, well, their behaviour is actually abusive. Because if I'm sitting there trusting them and trusting what they say and having goodwill towards them, and they're just emptying their thoughts onto me, then it's not right. It's not in balance. So the first couple of hits that I got were that I'm puffy, and that my breasts are not right, and that I have a tummy. That's the other one. And most of that I can sort of brush off with my own thoughts, thinking, well, I don't really feel that about myself. I don't really feel that, and that I'm okay. But after a while and a few more of these comments, it begins to sort of sink in a little bit, like get a bit deeper. Like it almost plants a seed of doubt, or that energy sort of begins to stick a little bit. And I was ending up thinking about things, thinking about being puffy, which I don't even think about. So I found myself becoming quite angry, because actually my boundary is being violated by these thoughts, by this energy that people are sending to me or intentionally giving to me. And the trouble is, it's so subtle that often you can't label it, you can't spot it. But because I'm becoming more sensitive as I'm moving into the 5th dimension, I can really feel it, I can spot it. So after a few of these, I had one friend who I actually confronted, and I said to her, look, she said, I'm not saying that you need to lose weight, but ... Then came her helpful comment. And I stopped her there and I said, well, yes, you are. You are saying that you think I need to lose weight. But if you're going to say that, then at least own it, because I can then respect what you're saying. And we can then discuss it from a more honest viewpoint. And then I laughed, because really making a joke of something is how you diffuse confrontation. But it's difficult because that person's not being honest with me, and they're in complete denial about what they're doing, but they're also saying, this is what I'm doing. So I did laugh because this person is living in a dream world, because actually they really are projecting their own thought onto me that I need to lose weight, but pretending that they're not. So it's very interesting, this concept to me at the moment, because if anyone knows me, you know, I'm healthier than I've been in years. You know, I'm running every day, my body is slimmer, I'm happier, I meditate a lot, so my thoughts are pretty clear, and I'm just kind of happy at the moment, and my life is, you know, doing well, and I'm happy and more comfortable with me than I ever have been, because I do a lot of self-love work and self-acceptance. So yeah, I'm attracting comments from my friends that are seeking to dismantle and erode my self-esteem. So I find this really interesting, particularly amongst women, that we want to do this with one another, or it's not even an intention. In fact, if I asked people, they'd be so unconscious that they'd be mortified that that's what they were doing. But actually that's what's going on, and it's definitely been my experience. So, and what's really sad is it's the women are doing it to me. I mean, we get all this stuff from men about body objectification stuff, but it's actually women, and then my friends doing it to me, which is even more harsh. And now I'm beginning to wonder, well, maybe I just need to get some new friends, but the truth is it's going on everywhere. And it doesn't just come from friends, it comes from colleagues and other people and people we meet. My experiences are like at the school gate, where mums congregate to get their kids, you know, strangers, you know, this is happening largely all over the place. And people, what strikes me here is that people spend way too much time analysing me and deciding how my body should be than I do, which seems ridiculous. But I think, you know, that's the truth here, that there is a lot of people and being very busy in their minds, like they're being incredibly busy thinking and obsessing quite ugly thoughts. And sadly, those thoughts are about themselves, but also they're dishing those thoughts out onto other people. And the amount of time they're spending on it gives it power, unfortunately. So when they're projecting those thoughts onto me or to another person, that they are literally like arrows, energetic arrows coming into my space and my energy field, and I feel it. They don't, you know, I've even got to the point where I don't even have to hear it. I can literally feel it. I was in the playground the other day and I felt this coming at me at my head. I turned around and there was a dad really staring at me and really staring at my hair, and I knew it wasn't a nice thought. But basically these people are violating my boundary. They are boundary violators, and they have no respect for another's sovereignty and very little evidence of their own. So this is really sad, because there are some people here that I really care about, but basically what they're doing is they're dumping their mind trash all over someone, and they think it's okay, and that behaviour is not okay. So this is why I wanted to do this blog. If anyone else is experiencing this, you know, it is not okay to be projecting your toxicity of your mind on people, and it's not okay. It's just not. So I'm you know, hear this about a little bit going on in schools, like when I talk to my daughter who's around 8, and there are other parents of her friends, and there's a lot of this going on amongst children in schools that young. In fact, it's quite shocking, and I have to admit that this is going on mostly between girls, and I find it really sad that the bodies of our children are being trashed by other people. They're being mind trashed, and at this point we could say something like, oh well, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, and all of that rubbish. But the reality is that, you know, these thoughts and these words have energy, and just like everything else in the universe, if we are sending toxic negative energy to anything, then it's going to have an effect. Have you seen on the internet that little plant thing they put in schools, and they put one where they spoke too nicely and one where they didn't? That's the same thing. And basically these people are shaming people's bodies, and they're destroying people's lives. And we only have to look at the individuals who are doing this to see that their minds, their own minds, have been eroded of goodwill, and their hearts are just like not engaged at all. So this is like a perpetuation of a sickness in our society, and it perpetuates toxic thinking. It perpetuates boundary violation, and there's a lot of people, I think, unhealthily obsessing about their bodies in a very destructive way, where they're looking at their bodies and saying that nothing's right, that there's things that that they cannot accept it the way it is, so they have to change it. And in that space, beauty cannot find a home. I would like to say that and be honest about it. Beauty cannot find a home if you are continually criticizing yourself. So I don't want to live in a world where beauty is not resident. No way. That's not how I want to live my life. And I don't want this sickness that goes on in other people to get inside my mind, because I've done a lot of work on clearing my toxic thinking, and particularly about myself. And I can see that women with obsessive toxic thinking towards themselves, it's actually very, very detrimental, because you're constraining yourself and trapping yourself, and you're eroding your own confidence and self-esteem. And we all need to feel good about ourselves and to feel comfortable in our bodies, particularly if you're a starseed or you're an indigo or an earth angel. Being at home in your body is like a major thing in this life. It can take a whole lifetime to feel comfortable in the physical. So what women are doing is that they're doing this to the point where there is no freedom within themselves to express who they are, to have creative self-expression. And I know women that won't even wear red or yellow, or not because it doesn't suit them, but because they're embarrassed. And the truth is, if we can't express ourselves creatively, we can't live in the heart, and we can't begin to really, really embrace and enjoy our lives, which is what we're here to do. And the trouble with this mind trashing is that it's catching. So when someone dumps their mind trash all over you and projects their pain onto you, they are actually influencing your energy field. So, and they're influencing your mind. So if you can imagine, you're lots of different particles in space, and some of those particles are vibrating this way and some are vibrating that way. If you're sending lower vibrations to people, it will affect their particles. And also, these people doing this are also imposing their will on another. They're imposing their set of rules of how to live. They are attacking what is different from them, or what they don't like about them, that they're attacking in another person. But essentially what they're doing is they're transferring the conflict within themselves onto another. Because in their minds, they have to be a certain shape or a certain size or an aesthetic that's to them acceptable, so that they can be loved and accepted. So look, if we're not adhering to this, then you don't deserve to have people come at you and say that you're wrong. You don't deserve to be attacked by somebody else who's trying to make you the same as them, or not even the same as them, like the same as some fantasy that they have in their head. And I'd like to say why this projection is so harsh, why it's important that we pay attention to this. And that's because it's got this power behind it. It's got a full force of someone who is essentially fighting for their lives. And what I mean by this is, that for some people, that they are very rejecting of their own fat or their own wrinkles or their own funny teeth, or or in my case, I can be rejecting of my body, but I've done a lot of work on it, so I don't give myself attention. I try and give it love. But basically, they're coming at you with the full force of their own views and attacks of how the world should be. And because most people in that space with obsessive thinking, they're spending a lot of time on that. They're spending a lot of energy, minutes, hours, days, decades, fighting with themselves about what they want and who they are, and they want to make themselves different. So that sort of repetitive energy within someone is very toxic and stagnant, but it's also can have quite a lot of power. And so if they're doing that about themselves, so they don't like their knees or something, and they're continually picking on their knees, nicking their knees, and then they go to you and say, your knees aren't right, it's because they really can't accept that part of themselves. And it's really sad that they feel they need to attack you. But they do, because if they don't attack you and your knees, then they will lose the war that's going on inside of themselves. So it's a really complicated space here, but it's important to remember it is merely a projection of their own self-hate. And this is where the truth of it becomes really sticky and icky and very sad, because these people really do hate themselves. And one of the things I'm noticing as we're moving from 3D to 5D is everything gets lighter, but all the hate is coming out. You really begin to see that it's becoming more visible where it was hidden. And you can tell that it's hate by the way it makes you feel when it's coming at you. And once you've been mind trashed, just notice how you feel in your body, and that you begin to isolate that part of you that they've picked on. Like if they picked on my knees, like I begin to isolate, look at my knees, and then I begin to reject it. And what I'm actually doing is I'm making it an enemy of myself and separate of myself, and that's where the war begins and hate really takes hold. So this is not a good place to be, because to be in oneness with yourself and in love with yourself is actually what we're all about. And how do I know this? Why am I sitting here trying to give you a video on YouTube telling you what I think? Is because I really have lived that. I really have come from a place of self-hate that was really deeply entrenched, and came from all sorts of ancestral lineages and my own past lives and my own experience in this life. And it came out as a very complicated relationship with my own body. And so accepting myself in a physical body, in a female body, with all that comes with it, and letting go of the ideas of perfection and just moving towards, well, can we be really authentic, loving human beings? And it takes daily work because it's so toxic in our society. But I'd have to say that although a lot came from myself, there was so much that came from other people's judgments and other people's mind trash. As I was growing up, it would come from me, it would come from people, friends, my sister's boyfriend, and all different people would be saying things to me. And I have heard mums and things shaming their own children. Luckily my mum never did that. But you begin to wonder, if people you love are shaming you and body shaming and mind trashing you, that it's a really, really sick situation in the 3D. So what the hell do we do about this? This is what I would really love to see change. And I know there are lots of body movements going on. I love that because it's so important we change this. And most people who are doing this mind trashing are completely unconscious, and they're unconscious that they have toxic thoughts, unfortunately, and most of them feel that even though they're wrapping what they're saying up in a very pretty little bow, that then they are then dumping all over you and dumping all over your head. They have no idea, most of them, because they are very unconscious. But if you are a starseed or an indigo or an earth angel, you will be aware because you don't come from that place. So let's first recognize what's going on and what it is. You know, this is a violation of your boundaries. It's a personal attack on your self-esteem and your energy, and it's a personal attack on your beauty and your body temple. You know, and your body and your body temple that's housing your soul in this incarnation is your friend. It's your best friend, actually, but it's also like a country. You know, it's like we live in it, we like do everything in it, don't we? It's like everything in here. And these people are sending energetic attacks into you, you know, using a thought form towards your energy. And it's like a missile being sent from one country to another. So, I mean, let's be really clear about this. Although it's happening in a very subtle way, that missile is like a powerful cocktail of very toxic energy. And the recipe that you're receiving will look a bit like this. It will contain all their belief systems, inherited, ancestral, or created by them. And believe me, we've all got enough of them. We don't need somebody else's. And it will be pretty toxic. And you will also have mixed in there some of their righteous energy, where they think they're right. So they're right and you're wrong. So there'll be a bit of that going on in there. And they will mix that all up with quite a lot of fire, because they would have spent a lot of time putting energy into those thoughts really toxically. They would have, just like I said before, been putting their own obsessive thinking that they've had about their own needs, you know, for weeks, years, decades, lifetimes into that thought. So it's really, really, really toxic and festering, and they'll be adding it all into the missile, you know, all totally unconsciously. All that toxicity that they've been cultivating, all that toxic thought that they have within them and that they've been generating and looking after and adding to, and they will be pinging it over to your country to invade. Actually, that's pretty much what it feels like. And if you don't believe me, spend some time experiencing it. Pause, wait, be open. So this is a sort of toxic attack that they are sending over to your love island. So, and I don't believe that you have asked for someone to get some toxic waste and dump it all over your earth. Did you? And if you're really lucky in this situation, if you've got friends doing this or family members, then it will be painted, it will be a lovely missile painted pink and wrapped in a bow that will appear like a compliment or something helpful a friend might say if they're helping you. And that's the worst, actually, because you'll be really open, because you'll be trusting them, and then in it goes, and then it begins to do its work. So if you wanted someone to help you erode your self-esteem, then yeah, that missile would be pretty helpful. And if you wanted a missile to be saying to you that you're ugly, unacceptable, unlovable, right to your face, because usually this goes on right to your face, then okay, maybe that missile would be helpful. But I don't think so. I don't think that's the sort of help that any of us need. We get enough of that everywhere else. So the only thing that's going to be helping you do is to walk away from that person and not come back. Yeah, which is sad as well, because so many people doing it, you know, it makes the pool of who you spend time with even smaller. But this is really important. So this is why you need to find other people who are ascending to 5D, working from the heart, you know, working into their heart matrix and coming from a completely different place, and not coming from a toxic mind. So I just really want to plunge home how toxic and dangerous this stuff is that people send in this thinking, because it's so easy to not realise that, and because it's happened so subtle and usually so quickly. But this is like radioactive waste, and it's dangerous. It will literally kill you, and it may not kill you like bang like a bullet, but it will kill parts of you slowly over time. So this, to me, this is the worst sort of toxin, because it gets into your own mind, it gets into your own thinking, and you can start to adopt it and start doing it yourself. Well, why would you want to do that? You know, like if you're very happy, like for example, when my friend said I was puffy, you know, I've never really considered being puffy. Like even the idea of being puffy is a little bit weird, and you know, and then I thought, well, yeah, actually, maybe there are times in the past where I've noticed that I was a little bit puffy, and my thought process has been, oh, I probably need a little bit more sleep. I need to love myself more. Maybe I need to drink more water. But that's my way of thinking and dealing with that, and it wasn't a big deal. It just didn't take up space in my life. But how my friend sent it to me was without kindness, without compassion, and without love. And sadly, that's because that's how she speaks to herself and her body and her inner child. So I'm making a judgment there, but I was pretty much on the receiving end of a well-versed experience that she had within herself. And you know, who knows, maybe that's how her mum spoke to her, or her other friends speak to her. And you know, that's really sad. I have some compassion for that friend, but I want to be really clear about this, that is not how I speak to my daughters. It's not how I speak to myself, and it's not how I speak to my friends. And I'm going to make a stand for that, because once I start doing that, I step out of my integrity. So what we need to remember in all of this is that words have power, and that when we speak using words, we are actually like casting spells. You know, that's where the whole formation of language comes from. It comes from creation of our realities and things that we put out there by the consciousness of our mind, our intention. So if you imagine when someone's telling you these comments that they're actually casting spells on you, you know, I know that sounds really out there and bizarre, but you know, these are comments that people are making. They're affecting a person's energy. So first, someone decides what they're going to say, and it comes from intention. So a bit like when, you know, if anyone does spells, you know, it comes from an intention and then your words. So a lot of unconscious behaviour is coming because they're not conscious, but actually this is the basis of mind trash, where people want to create the effect that's coming from maybe denied parts of themselves, maybe unconscious parts that they don't want to deny, dark parts of themselves that we all have. And so somewhere in their intention they are creating a comment, and then they're giving it to their friend. And my friend might have been wanting me to be puffy, so she labelled me that and judged me as that and told me that. So possibly, I mean, I can't prove this, and I love my friend, so it's tricky for this. So on an unconscious level, she might know that my body and mind will receive the spell puffy, be puffy, and that my body and my energy system might begin to create that for me. So it's really important, if I then have a hook on that and begin to look at myself as puffy and look for puffiness, I am reinforcing that within my own energy system. So some of the worst ways to get at someone is to get into their energy and they begin to do it themselves. And I sometimes wonder if this is what happens when people have trouble losing weight, that they go through this too, that they possibly receive many spells from other people and their toxic thoughts put on them many times a day, with intentions like they're fat or weight gain, and their body is then receiving that message all the time, and then it's being reinforced because that energy is getting in and eroding and changing the structure of the body. So look, essentially we are particles in space, and the messages each of our particles receive activate the particles and cells and even our genes, if you look into Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, to behave in certain ways. So if somebody is telling us that we're fat all the time, what do you think is going to happen? What program do you think is going to happen? It's going to be the fat program. So if someone's telling me I'm puffy, then it's going to be the puffy program. So I don't know about you, but I want warm, loving, confidently fun women in the world. That's what I want. I want to be one of them, and I want to be with people like this. So I don't want to live in a fearful, sad, cripplingly underconfident society where the women are, hating themselves and perpetuating hate onto one another. So this is like a very destructive cycle and pattern, and this is all being done with toxic negative thinking and toxic thoughts and thought projections. I believe that our minds and our bodies are way too precious for that. And our lives, our precious lives, they're way too short to be thinking about this stuff, and there are way too many wonderful things and wonderful ways for us to spend our lives, and all the fascinating things we could be doing and thinking about, all the amazing stuff that's all around us and in other people. It's too valuable to spend time obsessing over a small, issue on your body, or a tummy bump, or fat, or being spotty, or skinny, or whatever it is, or your knees, or puffy, or whatever it is. So I just want to say this really, please don't let people mind trash you. Don't let them get their stuff, their toxic thoughts, and dump it all over you. You are too special and valuable, and your body is beautiful. If you're a woman, your body is a representation of goddess, and your body and your beauty and your mind are so valuable. Don't let anybody come in and wreck that with their own stuff that they cannot seem to get hold of themselves, and they cannot seem to resolve within them. And I know, if you're a person that knows that you mind trash now, there are so many people doing it, billions of people doing it, particularly in the 3D, then just try and stop and think and maybe own what you're doing. If I catch myself being judgmental, I can do that. I can really own it, and I can swap it round. Then maybe you can begin to find some peace, and inside you'll start feeling less like a garbage truck. You'll start feeling more good about yourself inside, because really that's essentially what this is about, feeling good. Life is about pleasure, enjoyment. We're all here to experience wonderfulness and the fullness of life. So to finish off, I would also point out that this mind trash stuff is so present in the 3D. Oh my God, it's just everywhere. And as we're becoming more conscious, or we're ascending into the 5D, there are more people having their toxicity shaken out of them, shaken to the surface, so it's becoming more visible. And it's becoming more visible for us to actually see and to recognise. So it's becoming visible so people can deal with it, like they can deal with their own stuff more easily, but we can also deal with it because we can spot it more easily. And look, sadly, a lot of this is projections that come from a person's own disowning and denial of those aspects of themselves. So people who want to move into the 5D consciousness of the heart, we need to sort of draw a line here, because we're becoming much more sensitive as we're evolving into these frequencies. And that sensitivity is all about opening up the heart chakra And we're coming from a place of heart, and this is where the mind can interfere, because we'll begin to notice these attacks of energy, and they are at an energetic level. So if you're becoming more sensitive, then don't worry. This is a really good thing. But it's about how do we protect ourselves from energy and energetic attacks that are coming in, particularly from friends and family and people who are close to us, or just strangers, just random people. So part of our journey of immunity is to choose not to be in this energy anymore. So that can mean like surrendering, cutting people out of your life, or just simply, it doesn't have to be that harsh, just gravitating towards people who have really mastered their own self-love and really are moving into the heart. The fifth dimension is going to be all about the heart. It's going to be all about self-love, and we won't be able to work in it unless we are fully in the heart chakra and the heart matrix and coming from a place of expansion. And that requires us to be fully engaged, to be in our integrity of the heart and the heart energy. Yes. So this energy is about authenticity. It's trying to get us into a space where we're no longer in denial or contradiction, or where we're not really embracing the dark parts of ourselves. We're working with it and working through it. So we don't want to be in contradiction with our thoughts and our desires. So as the heart's function in terms of energy is linked to integrity, and we have to gravitate towards people who are living in this way as well, like raising the vibration, so that you can then begin to attract and move away from the people who are choosing to stay in the 3D and who are also beginning to, choosing to mind trash others because they can't deal with their own stuff. So I'm going to finish on that because I feel like I've rambled on for a long time, and I just want you to know that that this is a journey of self-love for many people, and it's achievable, and it's something that we work on we have to probably work on every day. But to clean up the mass consciousness scars on the feminine, this is part of our journey and our work. So I just want you to know that you are beautiful, and within you is the light of your star energy, which was created from the oneness of all there is, and you were birthed from a loving cosmos. And I wish you well on your journey, and don't let people mind trash you. Bye.